while we were at RoboGames with Mortician, I got approached by Martin Mason from the Mad Catter team. They had a middleweight robot, CatKong, competing at the same event. And there aren't that many places for middleweight robots to compete at. And so his idea was for us to take the two middleweights, combine them as a heavyweight, and go to the BattleBots Proving Ground at Las Vegas. And didn't take a whole lot to talk me into this. It sounded like a really good idea. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to tear Mortician down, figure out whatever we can fix and repair and get it ready to go. We also have a couple more pounds to play with. So a heavyweight is 250 pounds, whereas a middleweight is 120. So 220-pound robots is still well under. So we can each of us add a couple of pounds of either armor or something to take advantage of that. And so I've got a few ideas for some upgrades for Mortician. There's some things I want to do. So the first thing we got to do is we got to disassemble it completely down to the frame and see what I got. So here you are down to basically the bare frame. Left the bottom armor panel in place because I'm not planning on taking that out, at least not right now. So a few things that absolutely need to be addressed before it can fight again. At the event, we had one of our drive speed controllers burst into flames. And in the process, we ended up melting some other stuff in here. So I've got some stuff here to replace. I'm also planning on making the drive speed controllers. I've got some different ones. I've got some that are, these are 100 amp units. I'm going to put in some 300 amp units. So they're a little physically larger, but I shouldn't have to worry about that issue again. We were pushing them to their max, and so it's not really super surprising we had an issue. So I'm using the same speed controller for drives that I'm using for the weapon. So it should, everything there should be fine. And obviously I have to make a new negative block. I've got some rewiring stuff I'm going to have to do there. So electrically, that is basically all I'm going to do. Mechanically, I do have some damage in a few spots. I got clobbered pretty good there. This is the repair we did at the event. Honestly, it's in place. It doesn't look like it's too bad. I'm not gonna address the other stuff. I'm probably gonna leave that. So the biggest mechanical thing I'm going to have to address is going to be this front plate right here. And if you notice, you can see how it's bent out here. In a big hit against copyright infringement, it actually ovaled this hole and bent this plate back. This plate's just really not quite thick enough for the amount of energy that I'm swinging at this point in time. So at the event, we had to kind of just weld in a little piece there so we could continue and keep playing. But this plate is going to have to be cut out and I have to replace it. So this is 1/4 inch AR plate here, and I've got some 3/8 inch plate. So I'm going to remake this piece out of a thicker piece of steel, and hopefully that solves that issue, because if I'm bending this hitting middleweights, if I'm going to be hitting heavyweights, I really have to worry about that and make sure that doesn't bend. Other than those things, fixing the electronics, fixing that plate, that's really all I'm going to do. Most of this is going to go back together kind of how it was. I do have a slightly larger motor to put on for the weapon. The spin up was just too slow, so hopefully I get a little bit more torque to get that spun up a little bit. I do have, there's nothing wrong with these drive motors, but I do have some new ones, so I'm going to reassemble. Everything will be new, but it's basically the same specs of the stuff we had before. And I only have a couple of weeks to get this all done, so I guess it's time to get busy. So here Mortician is on its way back together. I'm going to point out some of the repairs that we did. So this section of frame was repaired at the event at RoboGames. Well, what had happened was in the match, the frame had flexed enough that the weapon had actually clipped the frame here and cut it. So we replaced that tubing. Well, it also clobbered on the other side, and at first I wasn't going to cut it out, but I got to looking at it a little more, and it was a little more damaged than it was collapsed over, almost starting to close the tube down. So I went ahead and cut out that dented section and replaced it as well. So I think we're set there. The nose plate had to be cut out and replaced. So it's a thicker piece of material now. So hopefully that should cover it. So from a frame perspective, that's all I did was replace that one piece of tubing, replace that nose plate, and then kind of paint it and clean it up. Internally, so the drive motors are the same style of motors we ran before. They're just brand new ones. The battery box is in the same spot and the same type of material as before. It's a TPU flexible material, but it's brand new. We use the same speed controllers for the drive setup as we did for the weapon. So everything's all wired up and ready to test. The only thing I really, at this stage, don't know how well it's going to work is the weapon motor. So we did replace the weapon motor with a slightly larger motor than what was in there before. Is it going to be enough to change how well it spins up? Is a really good question that I don't have an answer to yet. So I guess we'll finish throwing all the parts on and try to give it a test and see how it's going to run. As you can see, we have it all back together and everything is working, so we're going to be good to go put on a good show. We've got a few adjustments we're going to make, so right now I've got some of it back apart, but we're going to be combat ready, no doubt. All of this happens this coming weekend, August 19th and 20th at the BattleBots Arena in Las Vegas. So if you want to come out and see the Destructathon show, this would be a really good time. This should be putting on a pretty good show. And we're going to see if two high-quality middleweights can find a way to make a heavyweight cry.